Coming to you live from an undisclosed location in the Western Hemisphere, we bring you Conspiracy Hour from Bringing Down the Grindhouse. A show where we discuss conspiracy theories and weird shit that happens in the world and their explanations. Who are these people? Where do they come from? And why? Well, I'll tell you. I'm Mert.
I'm Justine.
And I'm Jonathan.
Today we're talking about fucking Atlantis.
Wait, what? Antarctica.
I hate you for making me watch. I just think of Atlantis as soon as we recorded this.
Okay, but wait. There is a theory that Antarctica is just a frozen over Atlantis.
I believe it.
So you're not far off base from there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about some of the bigger ones, which some people have probably heard of either on TikTok or because you've done your own internet research into conspiracy theories, which is actually kind of hard. Mm-hmm. Not gonna lie, because there's so many joke sites and it's like
if
non-serious
you're going through
material.
Google or any major search engines like that, it's very difficult to come across accurate information. And I'm pretty sure there's a reason for this. I hate to be the tinfoil hat person, but this is the tinfoil hat podcast.
Whoa, what?
I know there's actually already one, but we're not them.
Yeah.
But we're putting our tinfoil hats on for this podcast.
Yeah, but those guys are fucking No.
Nah?
My heart, I love those guys.
I'm just kidding. They're wholesome people.
I've met Sam multiple times.
Did you really?
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Oh, wow.
Anyways.
He talks conspiracy theories on his comedy show sometimes.
That's pretty funny.
That shit's dumb as fuck.
In
a good way.
I think what I like about the conspiracy theories around Antarctica is that not a single person can really confirm most of them, just because of how hard it is to get to the area and to look at things. So we have very limited actual footage, photos.
It's literally like the perfect place to do some shady shit. I'm just saying. Let's talk about some of the geographical information about Antarctica.
Right, yeah. For anyone who's not familiar.
This plate of ice at the bottom of the globe is 5.5 million square kilometers in size.
That's south for all you flat earthers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
South, yeah. Sorry, we don't believe in flat earth here. Wrong podcast if that's what you're looking for.
It's like, whoa. What about the giant ice wall at the end of the world?
We're getting there. We're getting there.
You're getting too ahead, John.
Hey, we'll get to ice walls in a
I'm
second.
just trying to get to the entrance to the Hollow Earth.
Anyways, that's not in my geographical information notes, sir. Where do you get this information from? Anyways, so this place is basically like a desert, but a frozen desert. Temperatures can reach anywhere from negative 90 degrees Celsius. And for you Americans out there, that's negative 130 degrees Fahrenheit.
Fuck that.
Cold as shit, but only gets about 1 to 3 centimeters of precipitation per year.
Per year, huh?
Now, on average, California gets like a few inches at least, even in our dry seasons. They get a few centimeters per year.
Wild.
I mean, it makes sense why it's melting and there's not a lot of new material coming.
Damn. So how long would you even be in the cold before you just died of exposure?
Probably like a few minutes.
It can't be. Yeah, it's got to be.
It depends too, because like that's not even accounting for the wind chill.
Yeah.
So, like, this is a very difficult place to inhabit.
Right.
Which you would think is why no one's really settled here. But it actually turns out that there is basically a coalition of countries that, I don't know, do research on Antarctica.
They have the Treaty of Antarctica.
Yeah, so this treaty was founded in 1959. It's called the Antarctic Treaty System. There's about 30 countries involved with this. And according to the terms of the treaty, military activity, mining, nuclear explosions, and nuclear waste disposal are all prohibited on Antarctica. So they're not letting them do any shady shit as far as we know.
Right, yeah. But at this
questionable.
point, we can pretty much just assume the government's lying to us.
But it's just a strange thing about that fact alone, that there's 30 countries that have come together in agreement to peacefully coexist and do research on this slab of land on the bottom of the globe. It's kind of strange considering that we are always fighting over who gets what territory. And how is it that we get 30 countries to come together peacefully, supposedly, under this treaty?
Well, I do know that in Antarctica, Antarctica. Still didn't say it right. Anyway, they like to play this game where they plant a flag, and then another country knocks it over and then plants their flag, and that's been kind of a funny game they've been doing for like centuries.
Just a fucking meme.
Yeah, it's like a huge fucking meme. I think Sweden and a few other Nordic countries like to do this to each other. They also do it on other islands, like around where their country is. So that's kind of been a thing. But as far as what you're saying, it's suspicious
Yeah.
to have that much cooperation. A lot of people are saying that it's because they are researching into the possibility that there's stuff still living underneath the ice. Not too long ago, they found some microorganisms that were still alive in the ice, which is kind of scary because if they find the wrong place, they could literally find like the bubonic plague or something.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing when I was looking into the sort of makeup of the land. There is a lot of underground lakes
Yeah.
that are frozen over by the Antarctic ice sheet. Now, if that ice sheet were to melt, there's a lot of strange gases and stuff that can build up in those lakes, including portions of that are bacteria or viruses that have become dormant underneath the ice sheet. But as soon as they start to warm, they become active again.
This is also an area which scientists speculate may have been without ice at some point. And if you adhere to the Pangea theory, when all of the continents were formed together and then spread apart, this was originally part of that large Pangea continent that spread out. So there was like lush greenland and forests and things at some point.
I wanted to talk about this for a second. It's just we have found so many different types of dinosaur bones over the last couple expeditions over the last century. And so it shows, I mean, a lot of those dinosaurs lived in hot climate, jungle-like areas.
Oh, yeah,
And
so that's a little more proof.
Also, I guess I'm going to just go into conspiracy there. There's also areas on Antarctica where you could see certain types of pyramids, which would probably relate to like a younger civilization back in the day in this jungle-like area, similar to like the Aztecs or something.
Wait,
You know what's so-
pyramids? Where?
In Antarctica, there's several pyramids. A lot of them are covered with snow and ice, so you wouldn't really be able to tell, but their shape is different from that of a mountain. Mountains tend to have a little bit more of like a rugged shape to them, but these are perfectly symmetrical geometric pyramids.
I did not come across that one, so that's interesting.
There's pyramids literally all over the world. There's not just pyramids in the ancient Aztecs and the ancient Egyptian civilizations, but we could see it in just about every civilization has some sort of pyramid structure that seems to show up, and they're evident all across the land, although a lot of them have been overtaken by nature.
Yeah.
They're still there if you know where to look.
They allowed the Egyptian one to be a tourist site, all right?
I fully believe that. But that pyramid is very important in particular.
Well, I guess to go deeper into like the dive, we'll just start with there is certain areas that people are allowed to do research within Antarctica. However, there's also a huge like area that is like basically cut off with a giant wall of ice, and there is a no-fly, no-swim zone in this area. So basically a whole area of this under that treaty is basically a dead man zone. There's nothing is allowed over there. And so many have different speculations about what could be out there, ranging from Nazi bunker bases with UFOs to the Gate of the Hollow Earth to the lake which holds a giant kraken-like monster. There's all kinds of stuff that are in these theories. So, I mean, just pick one and we could probably discuss about it.
Yeah, so why don't we pick one to start with? I don't know if we'll be able to really get into all of the theories because there are so many theories about
Let's
Antarctica.
go with the secret Nazi base.
That
All
sounds
right.
fun.
Because
Cool.
this is like, it's so close to being real. Like, it's so close to being real because they have a confirmed expedition that was approved by Nazi Germany before the war started, before World War II started. And they went there supposedly to figure out if they could possibly set up a whaling operation. And there's been research that's been done into it to see if there was any other reason why they would have gone there, but they couldn't find anything. So it's been speculation. They did have a station in the Arctic that was a relay station for the U-boats that would pass through there, but nothing else really. The reason why people were believing this was because of like the leaders from Nazi Germany that disappeared after World War II ended, and how some ended up in Argentina. So they're like, why couldn't they have gone anywhere else?
I know
And
that
that's a perfect hiding spot, if you ask me. Really difficult climate makes it hard to actually get to search and explore around the area. Don't want to stay out there too long, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Perfect place to hide, though, if you do know what you're doing.
Yeah, there was also suspicious activity around the same area, such as Murray, you mentioned it, the Operation High Jump.
Yeah, and I'll get into that. I know that the quote unquote Nazi base that was there that people speculate on is called Newfoundland.
Yeah,
Which basically they were using this test facility as a way to test window weapons or basically powerful weapons. Wunda weapons, like in Call of Duty. Wunda. But basically these were technologies.
It's insane how much experimental technology they had created in such a short amount of time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's when we get to the alien theories. But I think we can attach that to this Nazi Antarctica base theory as well.
There's a lot of theories that Hitler was in communication with aliens. That's kind of why he wanted to grab the Spear of Longinus.
Yeah.
Because it was definitely an ancient artifact. It's said to be the spear that killed Jesus. But he would definitely do all kinds of shady stuff and different kinds of rituals to come in contact with higher beings. And then supposedly they came to him and they showed him the UFO. And then, I'm going to go way off. I'm sorry. I apologize for this, but there's speculation that there are testing in Antarctica back in the 1940s of flying saucer-like things that the Nazis had.
Well, they had prototype experimental airplanes that were shaped like UFOs. So they were,
and you can easily find these photos on the internet.
Yeah, you can find where they built the prototypes and probably flew a few of them. Some of them are not confirmed because it doesn't look like they ever turned it on.
It's all just like drawn pencil stuff.
Well, some of them are actual photos
really?
of the like built plane, and there was even some that were created without a tail. So it ended up looking kind of like your modern day like black bomber kind of plane, but they were making these towards the tail end of World War II, and it was part of that the operation that had all like the wonder weapons. And like this was really where they were trying to find experimental things to use, and so they were trying to get jet engines to work, and they didn't want to use propellers anymore, so they could have faster fighter jets.
Got it.
And so a lot of them, they speculated, were flown around certain areas because that's where the bases were. And they may have seen prototype airplanes is what they're guessing.
That's also like
there may be some real ones too.
Right.
Their scientists were also trying to do several different things with like what's the word? Resurrection. I know that they wanted to make the eternal soldier.
Oh, he was very much into the occult.
And then the crazy one is the
hence your Hellboy storyline.
Yeah, right. Not only resurrection, but I lost it. Come back to me. Oh wait, I remember now. Time travel. So Hitler wanted to make time travel a real possibility so he could go to the future and already be a victor. He basically thought that he was going to win the world war and basically have the ability to go into the future and meet his future self and kill it. And basically just take it over like that.
I'm going to need a source for this one.
Well, my source is any conspiracy nut that looks up anything about Hitler. So here's the other big theory. So there's this giant base in the Antarctic that some of the Nazis fled to. How did they get all of this information for time travel, resurrection, and UFOs, which they made into planes? Well, the theory is that when they were in the Antarctic, they found the hole to Hollow Earth. The Hollow Earth theory is like a very prevalent theory that's been getting more traction rather than the Flat Earth theory, because the Flat Earthers kind of sound like nuts.
Yeah,
but like
honestly.
the idea of Agartha has been in history and in text for over millions of years. People believe that there is a place underneath the earth that is basically like a version of heaven, where they're the chosen people of certain descent animals and even a whole sun are located underneath the hollow earth. And so a whole civilization could thrive and use technologies such as UFOs that they get out from mountains that have very high amounts of heat. That's why they're always near the Appalachians, or they're always near the Mount Shasta and shit like that.
So here's my theory about Hitler, the aliens, and Agartha. So I'm pretty sure if there's somebody out there that's really familiar with the popular theories about the races of aliens that exist, of course there's going to be a bunch of them. The Greys are particularly the ones that people believe worked alongside the Nazis. And the Greys are sort of like, I guess you could call them bad guys, per se. And so the theory I have, and I've seen other places as well, is that the Greys were trying to get access to Agartha because they needed some sort of biological information. The Greys are very like weak, sort of bodied aliens, really intelligent, of course, but their race is dying out because their genetic code basically doesn't allow their bodies to exist for a very long time. And they're in a very weak state, which puts them at a vulnerability of their race going extinct. So their whole thing about working with the Nazis is they're trying to get information about biogenetic code, basically.
Right.
Humans' biogenetic code, because we have very sturdy bodies.
Gotcha.
And that's where a lot of the experimentations that happened during World War II on the side of both the Nazis and the Japanese, really horrific experiments, some people theorize were encouraged and led by these gray alien beings.
Well, that just leads me to believe that there's a second kind of race that might be actually in the Hollow Earth then, that aren't the Greys, that have certain technologies that, for most people who say that they find it or they've been in Hollow Earth, they say that it surpasses anything that we could even fathom in terms of like the improvements in technology, medicine, and all kinds of stuff.
Right. So I think the Greys are trying to get in by using the humans.
That makes sense. The running theory also, I have to circle back, is that Hitler never died in World War II. He just used his bunker to get into a submarine to go all the way to the Antarctic and flee to the Hollow Earth.
So what? He left like a body double behind.
Yeah.
When they found him and his family all.
He had the money, right?
True. I mean, I guess, but I don't think they'd have the technology at that time to make a convincing double. Yeah, I mean, unless everybody was in on it.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing is, like, with the U.S., they also, remember, they had that operation where they took all the Nazi scientists.
Yeah,
and turned them into the FBI.
So this is like real shady stuff that the United States did, where they were like, "Oh, you want to help us make a nuke?" And they were like, "Well, yeah, I could do that."
Do you want to go on trial, or do you want to help the U.S. government?
Do you want to go on the Nuremberg trial, or do you want to help us make a nuke and bomb Japan? And so they were like, "Yeah, fuck it, let's do the Manhattan Project," and then made a nuke, and then Oppenheimer was like, "Why did I do this?"
Right.
Literally does that, and then 2 bombs later, we're like, "Sorry, guys, sorry." Anyway, moving on.
I'm very concerned that there is a whole no-fly, no-swim area.
So that's
Antarctica.
super creepy. That's super creepy because I can't think of many areas on Earth where people are like, "Don't go there."
You're not allowed to
yeah,
go
you're
there.
not allowed.
Supposedly, it's for environmental protection reasons. Something about
like, what's even there?
Like no flying because they don't want the jet engine fuel to contaminate the air. Supposedly, but like, yeah, exactly. What's out there?
This isn't even like a Bermuda Triangle situation where like
as far as we know, there's no real life that inhabits Antarctica besides maybe like fucking penguins or something.
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that like really sparks people's interest in these kind of things. It's like people who are like, "What's on the dark side of the moon?" Like they just you have no way to confirm it, so you have to like really theorize about what possibly could they be hiding, and why would something like this be hidden in the first place. So weird. It's just weird vibes all around. And then but the entrance to the Hollow Earth one is one of my favorites, only because there's like running scientific proof where like people are trying to use to explain it. Like there's giant caves in China.
Yeah.
That people can go into, and they're just like, if this cave can exist, there's the very real possibility that there's entrances and deeper parts of the cave system that might go deeper. Maybe not as deep as the original Hollow Earth theory suggests, but I'm sure that there's reasons why people thought this did exist. Maybe some early explorers who found some of these went in and then came back out.
That brings us to Richard C. Byrd, who was a scientist and expeditionist that went on to the Antarctic expedition to look at Operation High Jump.
Yeah.
Operation High Jump was a U.S.-sanctioned military effort to basically see if there were actually any Nazis or enemy forces still out there in Antarctica during the Cold War.
I thought that was okay. So I thought that the official reason they gave for this was to train American soldiers in the likelihood that they would go to war in Siberia to fight Russians. They just had to have a place that was similar, so they went to the Arctic to train.
Which is hilarious. I don't know. I feel like that's such a diss on Siberians or Russians. But I mean, it's cold as shit there, so I get it.
So
I mean,
like,
yeah, if you could survive in Antarctica, you sure as shit could survive in
yeah.
Siberia.
So that was like their quote unquote official reason. People were suspecting that they went there because, like you said, they were trying to confirm the existence of a base and to figure out a way to attack it. And then not too long after, there was nuclear tests. And so they were like, they weren't trying to test stuff. They were getting rid of the bases there. So that's like the speculation that came out after that.
When exactly were they doing the nuclear tests?
I'd have to
Antarctica.
look, but it was like 50s, like you're very much like your atomic era, where the United States was doing stuff.
It wasn't until like the 1959 that they signed the treaty banning nuclear testing.
Oh, yeah.
So now
probably
this brings
prior.
us to another theory that they were blowing some shit up in Antarctica and pissed somebody off that was already there, possibly underneath the ice.
Yeah.
And so they came out and were like, dude, what the fuck? And then they signed the treaty like, hey, guys, can you guys not over here, please?
I love that
Do your
this
little
is,
research. Just don't over here.
I love that this is adjacent to Godzilla
Yeah.
film theory, which is that they were trying to nuke and kill Godzilla in the Pacific.
Well, what I think is crazy is the amount of stuff that the Antarctic and Hollow Earth play in cultural media now. How they're portrayed, and I mean, it's very big in Godzilla right now because, like, Godzilla, they had a base in Antarctica, and then they had a way to get to a Hollow Earth through many different types of tunnel systems. And then we got to see that in Godzilla versus Kong, where you actually go inside the Hollow Earth, which, like, I don't know. It seems like whenever Hollywood tries to portray these kinds of things, that they're also trying to, like, show you, like, hey, look what's really here. But at the same time, be like, you'll never see it, though. Kind of like to persuade as well as sway opinion about certain things. So we could have these kind of debates and then never get there.
Oh, interesting.
There's this interesting universal law about truth is that truth always has to be revealed in some sort of way. And you can't really stop that. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like Hollywood portrays these things and shows you the truth, but does it in such a way that it's like comical or whimsical or something that couldn't actually happen. And so you think, yeah, no, that's crazy. Something like that could never happen. This is just a fantasy that I'm watching.
Right.
When in reality, they're telling you exactly what's going on. They're just doing it in such a way that you won't actually know what's going on.
Fuck. Antarctica is, like, insane to me because at the same time, they also, the nickname for it within a lot of different groups within that people have named it's named as Illuminati Disneyland as well. That sounds kind of weird, right?
I mean, like, I think if anyone were going to go to Antarctica, it would be somebody who has a lot of money. Because you can't just go and get a shack in Antarctica. You need, like, a fortified base that can withstand the climate and temperatures. And it's so isolated. No one, like, literally no one will come bug you for any fucking reason on Ant-fucking-Arctica.
Yeah.
And what a better place to go than the wealthy elite who are up to some extremely shady shit and have a lot of eyes on them, you know?
Yeah, and then eventually we get to Richard C. Byrd, who is, like I said, an expeditionist, doing just routine stuff until him and his party come across, and as what Richard wrote into his diary, the actual gate to Hollow Earth, in which they found it. They talked to the certain tribes people that were there, most likely an ancient civilization race, or certain type of extraterrestrial race that lives there and keeps an eye on things. And they wanted them out. rightfully so, because humans are not allowed in this area unless, they reach there for some reason. It is said that Richard wrote that the UFOs chased them out as they got to their boats, and even so much as they were driving off. There's a weird illustration. It's pretty funny, though.
That's kind of hilarious, though. Imagine an alien shaking their cane at you saying, "Get out of my fucking ice sheet."
Yeah.
Get off my lawn.
So then he kept this journal with him, and then it was finally confiscated by the U.S. government. And prior to that, he did a couple of writings and readings, and then was going to have a speech about the Operation High Jump and everything that they did there. He passed away in his bed a couple of days prior to the actual reading, right? And then his protege, his little son, eventually, like 30 years later, was going to talk about his dad's expeditions and his miracles and all his success. And they realized that Operation High Jump was probably going to be one of those things on the chopping block to discuss. And so 3 weeks before the reading from his son, he was found dead in a warehouse due to dehydration.
They say.
Which
is such a strange thing. There's so many questions there. One, how did he end up in a warehouse? Two, how did nobody find him in this warehouse?
For 3 weeks.
For 3 weeks. I mean, you can dehydrate and die in like 3 days if you don't get water, but even still, like, that's fucking nuts.
I mean,
that's obviously a cover-up. Like, I don't know how it could be more fucking obvious.
Well, I mean, we already have proof that the government has done cover-ups.
Oh, yeah. Like, we should do a whole segment on MLK.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's the thing that fucked me up, because we were watching that movie Nobody earlier, and this guy's stuff is covered in black ink. See, they have everything in writing, but they just cover it up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a lot of interesting things that have happened in recent years is, one, because of the large scope of the internet and the information that's available to us, we now have many sources and ways to figure out what's happened. So in previous years, the CIA and the FBI were very good at covering things up because they've been overthrowing governments in other countries, especially South America, for decades. Mm-hmm. And so prior to that, they could just kind of brush it under the carpet and be like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, we didn't do anything. But now we're starting to get to a point where they can't really cover up anything because we're always watching them and seeing what's going on.
There's way too many eyes, way too many recording eyes, and way too much information to cross-reference with.
And now we're getting to the point where a lot of these files are becoming declassified.
Yeah, like a funny story. So I work at a crystal/metaphysical shop, and the first day I was there, I met this guy who had access to some of the like declassified CIA documents. And mind you, you can easily look these up on the CIA website. What happens is after they've had their documents for a certain amount of decades, they become public knowledge essentially. And so they release it to the public. So these are all documents from like the 60s, 70s, that kind of era. But there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. And this guy airdropped me some CIA documents about basically like their study of psychics in the CIA and how they were training psychics to use the chakra system in order to access certain capabilities, which is really interesting. But there's tons and tons and tons of declassified documents now about their sightings and experiences with UFOs and extraterrestrials, and it's pretty gnarly.
Right. And I think if we're talking about like extraterrestrial or like interterrestrial beings, they probably have been here for millions, if not a couple 100 million years.
I would say even longer than
longer than that. So the idea is, how do you communicate with someone that is so much more intelligent than you? There's something that is more metaphysical to it that we probably can't even communicate them with normal like words as well as body language. It has to be something more of a spiritual and kind of, I don't know, outbranching, like a spiritual kind of thing.
Yeah, like a lot of times the people that are doing this sort of interesting research into things like Antarctica and intraterrestrial beings, they're all very spiritually adept people, because I feel like this is something that exists beyond our realm of existence and understanding, and so it takes a transdimensional mind essentially to comprehend these things, which is maybe why this information isn't so easily found, because some people simply aren't able to see it.
Right. And you could discuss about how people are on different wavelengths and how people are on different vibrations of their own. if you want to look up that stuff and get into it, you can, but you have to be willing to open up your mind and open up your spirit to be able to understand or even grasp some of these concepts. And so I think nowadays, basically what we're seeing is that a lot of people are very much like glued to technology.
Mm-hmm.
People are very much like in their own little world, and like they don't have that time because their jobs or personal lives, or they're just too distracted to be really doing those kinds of practices.
That makes me think of something too, how you're talking about before about how we could possibly communicate with these beings that are way more advanced than we are and how they perceive us. I feel like the communication is something akin to how we communicate with animals. Like, say your cat or your dog, you can't have a full-on vocal conversation with your cat or dog and understand every detail of what they're saying, and they can understand every detail of what you're saying, but I can still read their body language in a certain way, and we have, I don't know, somewhat of a telepathic connection. I don't know if any cat or dog owners out there can resonate with this too, but you kind of understand what your animal needs without having it say so, or say in the way that humans are accustomed to. And so I feel like a lot of people that have I know that a lot of people who have had experiences with aliens or extraterrestrial beings, extra dimensional, whatever, experience a telepathic sort of communication, something that's sensing rather than hearing in your like ears with that sense.
Right.
It's a clear cognizance kind of thing.
It's also crazy that cats and dogs can tell if a person is bad.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which is hilarious to me.
A great piece of superstition and science getting blended together for that explanation.
Right.
The running theory is that cats, being the creatures that they are sensitive to the vibrational frequencies given off by people. And in some cases, there are some they do not like. And so people created the superstition that if they don't like it, it could be that somebody is giving off some sort of energy that is not supposed to be around you.
You know, that makes me think of another fun cat/alien theory. There's a theory that cats are actually sent to Earth by aliens.
Yeah, that's
and
a funny one.
Specifically a race called the Lyrans.
Yeah, I've heard of this. This is kind of wild.
But we'll probably get into that more deeply in another episode. But since we're talking about cats and vibration, something interesting about cats is they actually have bits of quartz crystalline within their pineal gland. And so when they purr, they're vibrating this quartz at a certain frequency that is a healing frequency. So cats literally remove negative vibes from a space.
My favorite scientific proven thing is that they can make you feel better with their purr.
Yeah. Like literally, I had some bad cramps and I brought my kitty over and had them on my stomach. They were purring and those cramps melted away so quickly. It's real. They say specifically the cat's vibrational frequency is good for muscular tension.
Wow. So cat owners,
they make you relax.
Get stretching.
Yeah.
Well, what's underneath the lake, John?
Well, you know what? I'm really glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Because they just dug up some organisms not that long ago. I think it was like last year.
I think it was Russia.
And they were like, this was hilarious because they were like, we're going to dig and find something in this lake. And literally every scientist was like, please don't. Like, we don't know what's in there. We don't want you to bring the sample back. Like, what if you find a virus we've never encountered? We don't want to deal with this. And they're like, we did it. And so they fucking pulled out a chunk of ice that they pulled from this lake. And we're like, yo, there are organisms in this we've never seen on Earth before. And you're like, what the why would you even pull that out of the ice? And so in my mind, I was like, it's the thing. Like, you've created the plot of the thing. And now, like, we might have something terrible happening. Luckily, nothing bad happened, but they are still taking samples and observing what is alive in the ice there. And in some cases, they suspect it might be, like, very, very old, way older than we could have anticipated.
And consider the implications of this is if organisms are able to survive in this extremely dry, extremely frigid temperature and climate. Imagine what that means for other planets.
Yeah, so one of the interesting arguments about searching for life on other planets is that a majority of the parameters that they're looking for include only parameters for humans to live in,
Exactly.
and not necessarily places where other organisms could survive, aka things that don't need oxygen or use, say, carbon or hydrogen or any of these other things as their main source of energy. And so they're arguing that why are we looking for planets where humans could inhabit it when we should just be looking for microorganisms that could survive off of something else? Because they've been proven to find them, say, in like deep oceans where they have like those heating vents, where like they live around these vents because of they use that thermo energy as opposed to like other things, or like what's the other one, not the deep ocean, but like in like dark caves where like the oxygen is very low. They like figured out ways to adapt to that. So there's just other things. So that's one of the things that they're looking for as far as like space exploration and things like that. But then that's like we need to have an episode on ocean conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
I have quite a few things to
because
discuss
there's
there.
a lot of things, and then there's the very large fact that we have a lot of undiscovered water.
And also, since we're talking about hollow earth theory, there's also a theory that at certain very deep points of the ocean, it basically creates the conditions for a wormhole to possibly exist. And so there's theories that...
AKA the plot of Pacific Rim.
Right. And so there's theories that there are wormholes at the bottom of the ocean that lead to some sort of inner world.
Okay, but like this one, I want to believe it, and it feels like it makes sense, but I'm not a scientist, so I'm not like super sure about it.
Well, like a lot of this stuff is quantum physics that's outside of like empirical data,
right?
You know, like these are things that are very difficult to test. They all exist hypothetically, but can be observed in certain situations.
Well, the reason why I want to believe it makes sense is because the theory that I read was that the great amount of pressure that's created at the bottom of the ocean is combining with like elements that are within the area to create that so it's like pressure is being applied to a certain spot and then it's creating something different. I don't know why that makes sense for me, but I'm like that could totally fuck some shit up and open something.
Subscribe to sort of like the universal fabric theory,
right?
That there's sort of I see it more as a web than a flat fabric like Albert Einstein predicted or theorized. Essentially, like if there's an interconnected web, if you were to break one web, punch through it, you could connect to another aspect of the fabric, essentially. And so you get enough pressure in one spot. That's how black holes are created. And there's the theory that black holes themselves are just really big wormholes that exist after the dying star collapses and creates the gravitational pull to cause a wormhole/black hole. But I mean, that could exist on smaller scales, especially somewhere like the bottom of the ocean with insane amounts of pressure.
Well, this just makes me think like every time that someone has thrown the hollow earth theory or like the theory of a hole in the ocean couldn't exist to another world within the earth, it's that the earth would just implode on itself if it were hollow like that. But this just makes me believe, what if there is a technology out there that race uses to make and ensure that that does not happen?
Actually, okay, so if you have too much of a downward pull, then yes, things would just collapse in on themselves. But what if there is a massive object that was creating a counteracting push? You have the pull of gravity and the push of this magnetic core, which could essentially be the central sun is the magnetic core of the planet, which is actually causing a polar magnetic reaction, which balances out the fields. That way, there's not a collapsing of the earth because there's equal pressure in both directions.
That's what I was just thinking. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Antarctica is scary, bro.
Yeah, so a lot of weird things around the area. I think it's mostly sparked by the how hard it is to confirm things, because like if you have like other places that have conspiracy theories, you can usually go and check it out and be like, I don't know, like you can usually do that. It's not like your Bermuda Triangle situation where like shit just keeps vanishing. This is sort of like a different thing. This is like most people don't have a reason to go there or pass over or things like that, but there are enough government related operations where you kind of have to like squint your eyes at it and you're like,
I mean, squint your eyes at the fact that there's 30 countries that are running some sort of research operations, but do we even really know what they're researching in Antarctica?
One of the bigger ones that they claim is weather, like basically global warming prevention, and they're trying to figure out how fast the ice is melting. So that's one of the things they say they're doing. Another one is that they've always sort of been doing that even before global warming, was that they wanted to measure the movement of the ice sheets. And then a third one I saw was that they were looking for fossils and like organisms and things like that, which is what that team found when they were like, yo, there's an underground lake here that like nobody's touched. And like they said that they like dug in and that they like nobody had been in there probably for like a couple thousand years. And so that's why they were very surprised to find things just alive. It was like a frozen like microorganism soup that they found.
Right.
Which I don't know why, but that sounds like terrifying to me, because I'm just like, yo, what if they really did find something awful in there?
Yeah, some sort of flesh-eating parasite.
Yeah, like
wild shit like that.
Because like, or what if something exists? What if they got certain things wrong and like something like a huge extinction happened because of a virus and not because of like other things?
It's actually much more probable that any sort of extinction level apocalyptic event would coincide with some sort of virus being released. Like, I think a lot of people were terrified about COVID in the beginning for that specific reason.
Yeah, I mean,
because there's so much discuss about biological warfare, and then just the fact of plagues existing, and then there's the whole zombie craze, which ties directly into that as well.
Well, didn't the Black Plague kill like a third of the planet? Which is like an insane amount of people.
Fun fact, the Black Plague still exists.
Yeah. Just
in more remote locations in third world countries. I know Madagascar had a spike in bubonic plague.
Fucking terrifying. Yeah, scary. As far as other theories go, and any other conspiracy theories, they're kind of like smaller-ish.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like we talked about most of the big players
most of the
here.
big ones. What's happening in recent days is that there is a growing community of people who like to observe things on Google Earth, and they look at the photos and maps.
Oh yeah,
of
that
things.
was a fun thing too. There's a large portion of Antarctica, which I think coincides with the no-fly, no-swim zone, that is pixeled out of all sort of maps of, like live maps of the area. And it doesn't exist really anywhere else except for where there are military bases. Military bases across all parts of the globe, usually on any sort of GPS service like Google Earth, Google Maps, are blurred out to a certain extent. And so they're doing a similar thing of Antarctica, which makes people believe that there could be some sort of base or structure that exists there. Or in this case, maybe something subterranean.
Yeah, my favorites are people who are like, oh man, a UFO crashed in the Arctic, that's what this is. Or people are like, that's a face, that looks like a face.
Then the pyramids.
One of the crazier ones, the pyramids is interesting, although people are arguing that it's a mountain, but of course the argument from the other people is that like it's too perfectly shaped.
Yeah, I think I had brought that up earlier too, is that nature exists imperfectly, but things that are created by intelligent design are oftentimes geometrical and symmetrical to a certain extent, to like a design, to a very specific design.
I would argue that some things are made pretty perfectly, which is why you have like, what is it, the spiral?
Yeah, the Fibonacci sequence or the golden ratio. Fucking nerd.
You have like, you see it in plants is probably the most likely location.
But even still, no two plants are recreatable.
Exactly
they exist in slight imperfections.
Oh, well, now you're getting into the the weeds of philosophy and semantics.
Well, yeah.
But I
can
get
you
what
really
you're saying.
avoid it in this kind of conversation?
No, not really. Well, because so I think it's important to note that none of these are confirmed.
Yeah.
Everything we discussed is theoretical for legal purposes.
It's speculation.
This
and
is all
just-
for fun.
Yeah.
It's all speculation. It's hard to confirm any of it. Whether you believe it or not is up to you.
Just fun to look up
It
stuff.
is fun and interesting to look up. For me, it's fun because I'm a writer and I love conspiracy theories that will kind of explore the imagination. But I think in a time where we have so much info available to us, we're very easily drawn into when people come up with stories and tell you a story about things. And it will usually spark some conversation, whether it's good or bad. And so I think it is interesting to approach conspiracy theories with an open mind and not kind of close them off, unless you're a flat earther, in which case you're a fucking idiot. But
I mean, we just watched that show, what is it, Inside Job, where the
God, I love
running
that.
joke is that they made flat earthers just so they would get them off the hollow earth theory.
yes, yeah.
It's distraction.
Yeah.
I believe it.
That's super funny. I love that it's a joke about the Illuminati and how they run it
Yeah.
just to like take it.
There's like, we're hooded figures. You can't get on our fancy person yacht when the bombs
Yeah.
drop unless you do this.
Well, now I'm thinking about what other conspiracy theory episodes do we need? We need one about the Illuminati. We need one about the deep oceans.
Need one about lizard people.
And we can all discuss this at a later time.
We need one about lizard people.
But for
yeah.
now,
I'm
we
just
should
thinking,
wrap this
Yeah,
up.
this is.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts about Antarctica?
Shit's crazy out here. That's all.
Hey, we're not out there.
Are we?
I don't know, but if you
You
want,
don't know. You don't know where we are right now.
Oh yeah, we're in the south.
This is an undisclosed
in
location.
the western hemisphere of the world. But if you want to hear and listen to someone who has been on Antarctic expeditions and is still alive today, I recommend checking out the works of Brad Olson, who is an esoteric studier and as well as a world-class renowned traveler who talks about the esoteric and conspiracies as well as the Antarctic on many different podcasts across different mediums, whether it be Spotify, YouTube, or other places. Also, his website looks like the 90s. If you're looking for the good conspiracy stuff, it's always from the fucking websites that look like they were made in the late 90s. Honestly, because they have
Facts.
all the shit that they have like decades of research that they just put publicly on the internet and no one cares because they're conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, they usually will ignore it. And it's also kind of wild that the internet was not popularized until like 94.
I would recommend 2 books from him. The second edition of Modern Esoteric, which was released in 2004, and then the Future Esoteric, which was released 10 years later, the second edition of that. They're both available for like $15 on the internet.
Like on Amazon.
They're on Amazon, they're on eBay, they're in bookstores, they're also on Audible and all that stuff. But
Yo, it's on Audible.
yeah. The only thing that I could say is that I found out about him through Tinfoil Hat with Sam Tripoli. And that guy is a comedian, so do what you will. I'm going to give you an NSFW for that podcast because they talk about weird shit. Anyways, very informative, and as someone who had been on an expedition, it was cool to hear him try to talking about trying to go to the no-fly, no-swim area and get caught by the military that are out there that guard that area.
Wait, whoa. There's actual military in this area?
I don't know who he claims who it was in the episode, but I can't remember who guards the place.
What?
So
I gotta look into that one a little more.
I recommend their
I
episode.
bet it's like a Russian special ops thing because I don't know who else would withstand that cold for that long.
Yep.
Oh man, that's probably my favorite thing about history and Russia is that people just could not invade it
because it's just cold.
because of the cold Siberia.
It's cold, man.
Not to mention that every single Russian citizen who could fight literally fought the army that was invading. They did anything they could. It's just a fun bit of history. Go watch a documentary on Netflix that explains it. They basically talk about how we've had a serious propaganda retelling version of our history which is like America was the one who won the war, and they joined
Yo,
like
America's honestly pretty weak.
we joined in like the last 3 or 4 years of the war, and like really didn't do that much.
Also, fun fact, Pearl Harbor and why we got into World War II is because of Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor wasn't even, it's in Hawaii, and Hawaii wasn't even part of the U.S. at that time. But there's a U.S. base there.
I thought it was at the point.
No, there is a U.S. military base on Hawaii, but Hawaii was not a U.S. state yet.
Oh, okay. I think it wasn't an official state, but they had overthrown the monarch not long before.
Yeah, definitely. That's why they had the military base there in the first place.
Yeah. Okay, I get you.
Fucking colonizers.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to end the episode right
here.
here.
Yeah, go for it.
You're going to walk us out?
Thank you for listening to
Wait,
Conspiracy Hour.
I got to put my tinfoil hat on.
Yes, get your tinfoil hats on.
I got to readjust it before I go outside. I got to set it to the outdoor settings.
Right.
Yeah, hang on. I'm going to adjust my antenna.
Get the antenna right.
All right. I think I'm good to receive the broadcast.
I thought tinfoil hats were to prevent things from scanning your brain.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I got to put an extra one on when I go outside.
But you said you were adjusting the antenna.
Yeah.
Because I have to send out vibrations too.
Yeah, it's so we can communicate with each other.
Yeah, exactly. Gosh, John.
Gosh, don't you get physics?
Wow. This is future esoteric, all right?
Future.
the back in the day, that was modern esoteric. This is future esoteric, all right?
This is postmodern futuristic esotericism.
Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, this is some Zoomer aesthetic.
All right, let's get out of here, samurai.
All right.
Chumbada. Okay,
well, if you would like to hang out with us in our chumbadas, check out the Discord. And also, Samurai, check out the Patreon, where for $2 a month you could subscribe to our channel and basically get all our bonus content for free. Conspiracy Hour will be a bonus segment, as well as the Sci-Fi Corner, Monsters with Murr, Horror Games with Mitch, Cryptids with Justine, and the Spook House with Eves.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we gotta make another episode of
Yeah.
that. What a wild episode.
We all have different kinds of things going on there. So for $2 a month, you can do that, as well as recommend some horror content for us to review. Check out all of our social medias, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Twitters. Basically, keep in touch with us. Check out the Discord and hang out. But if you want to hang out with us, you gotta wear the right shit. You gotta wear the right clothes, the right aesthetic. Got to get that shirt from Teespring. You feel what I'm saying?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Not only that, but you got to wear the hat. I have my hat right here, in fact. I'm wearing it right now. Good thing we don't have cameras.
Go join the Discord and argue
shit.
with each other on there. It's funny.
Listen to us while
we're
playing video games or just hang out.
Yeah, send us some porn.
Yeah, send us
Talk to us about video
tentacle
games.
hentai. This is an 18 and up only Discord. If I've been any youngins, you're gonna get your ass fucking slapped.
Also, we talk about film discussion and analysis, so please come through and hang out.
Yeah, we also talk about other shit. We're not just horny comics.
Yeah.
We're like 40% horny. 60-40.
The other 40 is reserved for like food. Okay, I'm done.
Some music
thank you
too.
for tuning in to Conspiracy Hour. This has been your host, Murr.
I'm Justine.
And I'm Jonathan. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Fucking Atlantis.
Day.